One of the most important locations on Earth is a small passageway, to be more exact, a naval canal connecting the world shipping industry, allowing for faster shipping between Asia, Australia, Europe, and North America. What's the history of a canal that earns more than $5 billion annually? It has recently struck news with the evergreen ship Ever Given getting stuck in the Suez Canal, blocking maritime traffic, costing around $10 billion of losses every single day. Even in ancient Egypt, there existed some kind of canals that connected the Red Sea and the Nile, allowing boats to pass. When a trade route to India was discovered via the Cape of Good Hope, Venetians, who were desperately weakened by this discovery, discussed digging a canal in the 15th century, but to no avail. The Ottomans too were keen on the idea of connecting their lands in the Arabian Peninsula to Constantinople by sea. After the French campaign in Egypt, Napoleon had employed many specialists to find out how it could be done. None of these would be able to make this new pathway happen until the mid-19th century, when the French-Egyptian Company, Universal Company of the Maritime Canal of Suez, was formed and began to dig the canal. The Egyptian part of the ownership would eventually be bought by the British under suspicious circumstances. The construction would take 11 years. Up until its opening in 1869, more than 120,000 people would die working on it. The cost was double what they had planned. Nevertheless, they had devised new plans to earn back the money, which they did quickly. The canal was a revolution in the maritime industry. A couple of weeks faster route to reach Europe than to go all the way around Africa. When oil became a major factor in the world economies, the Suez was certainly the most important passage for the oil tankers. During the Second World War, the Italians had seen the Suez as an unavoidable goal for victory. In 1956, after decades of Egyptian partial independence, decolonization was the topic of the era in that complicated Cold War. Egyptians, unsatisfied with Western ownership of the Suez, rebelled and nationalized the canal under Egyptian leader Nasser.
A new Middle East crisis arises as President Nasser of Egypt tells a wildly cheering crowd in Alexandria that Egypt has seized the internationally owned Suez Canal. His announcement touches off a rapid series of reprisals and counter-reprisals. Britain freezes all Egyptian funds, and Egypt retaliates with the same measures.
In what came after the nationalization, the Suez Crisis was the crisis of 1956 and the 50s. The combined forces of Britain, France and Israel launched a surprise attack on Egypt to take over the Suez. Even though the coalition's victory was realistic, the United States and the Soviet Union put Britain and France in the spotlight and politically shamed them for their imperial actions. Both had to pull out of Egypt, leaving Israelis to hold only Sinai. British Prime Minister Anthony Eden was forced to resign, and Britain itself lost its superpower status. That was not the end of crises in the Suez. A decade later, harsh relations in the Middle East had eventually escalated into war, the Six-Day War. The conflict had reached the Suez, and Egypt had closed the canal, leaving 15 ships that were passing through it locked within it for the next 8 years. This closure forced the construction of large ships for long voyages around the Cape of Good Hope, since the Suez wasn't open anymore. From that point on, the canal has been constantly worked on to enlarge and improve it. In March 2021, an evergreen ship, Ever Given, had gotten stuck in the canal. For the next 6 days, a large number of vessels would reach the unpassable Suez. Around $10 billion per day were lost. The Suez Canal has plenty of interesting history, so it's definitely worth reading about it. It's one of the most important transport locations in the world. The mainstream media only sees its worth once there is an obstruction of maritime traffic. From the beginning of its construction, it has been the graveyard of many workers. It has been a centerpiece of world attention. It has metaphorically defeated an empire, and today billions of dollars pass through it every single day, holding the globalized world economy together. This is Lytica, signing off.